What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Now, taking a look at these right away, you can see they both do feature these stainless steel edges, but one of them doesn't have a SIM card slot anymore. And you could see fingerprints everywhere. That is kind of common on the Pros at this point. You also notice that the camera definitely got a lot bigger for the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but that also makes it a heavier phone and a little bit bulkier there, especially when you are putting cases on these devices. So definitely do keep in mind you will be getting a bulkier camera, but it also gives you a little bit better quality than the iPhone 12 Pro Max does. Also, keep in mind they have the seam textured back, but I do think the Apple logo looks a little bit bigger on the 14 Pro Max right there. Comfort-wise, though, they kind of feel basically similar, but the iPhone 14 Pro Max is slightly bulkier, slightly heavier. So I would say overall, besides that dynamic island up there, letting people know this is the latest and greatest iPhone, I probably would just go ahead and stick with the iPhone 12 Pro Max. If you were just looking at these two on the basis of design, the body, the build, it's really not a major change. Oh, that notch does look dated now, but they do have the dynamic island. These phones still house the same 6.7-inch panels, and they just kind of feel like a similar product. So Apple really hasn't overhauled the Pro much here, but has made some slight changes to let you know this is the latest and greatest iPhone 14 Pro Max. So when it comes to the display, should you go ahead and do the upgrade here? And I would tell you, it depends. It depends on what do you like in terms of a display? Because if you just want a large display and you want it to be colorful, beautiful, and bright, both of these do provide that. They actually both do use OLED panels, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max is more like the iPhone 14 Plus with its 60 hertz refresh, not looking quite as smooth when you go ahead and pop through applications. So if you are looking for a little bit of a smoother panel, you're going to want the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Also, keep in mind that the 14 Pro Max can reach a max nits of 2000 outdoors, which just means that in sunlight, you will have a lot brighter panel as well. It's not always easy to detect the difference between 60 hertz and 120 hertz for everybody, but people are into, specs and things like that will definitely notice it. And this display does give you a new way to interact with the dynamic island, which we've showed off here on the channel before. But you got to decide how important is the dynamic island for you. Do you really want to interact with that? Do you really care about that? Are you willing to spend the extra cash to upgrade right now to get that? Are you willing to start a new carrier plan or something like that where you're going to keep paying on your phone when you're close to paying off your 12 Pro Max? That's really up to you to decide. On the whole, I can tell you after experiencing this for about a month, it's nice to be on the latest, don't get me wrong, but if I wasn't a content creator and I was using a 12 Pro Max, I probably would just hold off because I think the upgrades to the 15 Pro Max will be more worth it for 12 Pro Max users. But it's still a good upgrade if you want to do it. I'm just saying, it's not like groundbreakingly different. It's not a life-altering phone. It does have slight upgrades, and it's a quality of life improvement in terms of camera and battery, but it's not like life-altering. Like, it's not like you're getting a whole new product category here. When it comes to software, the changes typically come down to this area right here, the cameras. So you'll see ProRAW resolution, 48 megapixels. Over here, you can see just the ProRAW capture, which is still quite nice for a phone. Not a lot of phones have that to begin with. But you can see same app libraries, same application support, both very responsive, very good. I mean, the Apple iPad that just got announced today does have the same A14 chip that's in the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So they're telling you right now that's still a nice chip, and I agree with them. However, I will tell you that, again, it's just that dynamic island up there. You can see that's the only thing that looks different. And also, if we go into the cameras once again, you're not going to find this action mode like you'll find over here in the software. You also can see they brought 2x, 3x on here, so you only have 3 lens options there. You have 4 options here. That 2x is cropping in on the main sensor, and then over here cinematic video will provide you with 4K 24 now, and you don't get any cinematic video on the 12 Pro Max. So if you want to up your video game, definitely worth it here. Other than that, in the way of software, you'll see a little bit difference on the front-facing camera. You could do cinematic video, and this also gets improved on the front-facing camera as well. So we're kind of talking about software and camera at the same time here. That's really where the big upgrade is. It's in the camera. and also again the dynamic island interface. Other than that, they are using essentially the same thing, although I did see quite a few people upgrading from the 12 Pro Max to the iPhone 14 Pro Max when I was picking up the 14 Pro Max. I will tell you that using these two phones is giving me essentially the same experience, and that's mostly down to the fact that they're both running iOS 16. Performance-wise, there's really nothing wrong with this iPhone 12 Pro Max besides the fact that it does have a 60 hertz panel, and that's only an issue if you care about stuff like that. I mean, the 14 Plus still gets that, and it has the same size display. I'm going to keep bringing that up because that's essentially what this phone is without a telephoto lens. So definitely 14 Plus, still a rock star performer. I will say that it can occasionally get warm if you really push it, but it's not anything that I'll be super concerned about. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, on the other hand, is definitely a snappier phone. It definitely feels that way, and if you like your phone to feel like it's a faster experience, I have to admit that it does feel faster. But it's like to the point where it's so ridiculously faster that I don't even feel like I'm going to be ever using that much power on the phone, and it really doesn't change my life all that much. I just pop between apps a little bit faster, a millisecond or so quicker. If you were running out of storage, I would consider doing the upgrade over to the 14 Pro Max. You had 512 gig option for the 12 Pro Max, but if you bought a 256 gig, you're starting to need more. They do have a 512 and a 1 TB option, which wasn't available on the 12 Pro Max. So I got the 256 gig. I've been fine there, but some people are not fine there. So they do have 1 terabyte. So do the upgrade if you need more storage. You do have those options available on the 14 Pro Max. And we talked about the cameras a little bit earlier. One area I absolutely would highly recommend you do the upgrade is if you really care about your camera results. Specifically in low light, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is far superior. It makes much sharper photos in the dark than the 12 Pro Max, and it has much better video quality and the ability to macro focus on items. So with that being said, it's just a total overhaul to the camera in terms of not giving you more lenses, but just upgrading the quality on everything. And that's really what we want out of our phones. We want better quality. We don't want to have to use a real camera. We just want to use our iPhones for everything. And the 14 Pro Max is getting to that point where you can really do that. Like, I honestly am starting to sell off my old cameras. I'm not using cameras much anymore. I'm recording this video on the 14 Pro Deep Purple. Why? Because it's so good, I don't need to turn on the real camera. So definitely do the upgrade if you want improvements to the camera and you want a better camera. It's an all-day recommendation there. Another area where I would recommend doing the upgrade is if you want a little bit better audio performance.
What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my Apple Watch Ultra honest review.
So this one over here,
What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my Apple Watch Ultra honest review.
it just sounds better.
I've had this watch for around 2 weeks. I initially purchased one. I thought it was too big.
Both are loud, but the 14 Pro Max is deeper, richer, and just sounds better.
I've had this watch for around 2 weeks. I initially purchased one. I thought it
So go ahead and do that upgrade. If you want better audio, the 14 Pro Max is the move. Now, when discussing battery life, I also would recommend you do the upgrade to the 14 Pro Max. After 16.0.3, the 14 Pro Max did improve the battery life back to what I expected it to be like, and it gets all day and then some on the next day. The 12 Pro Max, actually the 12 series in general, was one of the worst in a while after the 11 was so great. The 12 Pro Max was the best of the 12 series, but it still doesn't compete with the 13 Pro Max or now the 14 Pro Max. In my experience, it still gets a full day heavy use, but these phones are stretching into the next day, and that makes these things just rock star performers in the battery. Not only that, the 14 Pro Max has a more efficient CPU and a physically larger capacity, so it should last you longer as well. So go ahead, it's definitely an upgrade here. It also has a little bit faster charging support if you do have the faster charger available. And also, they both have lightning ports and they both support MagSafe, so they're not really different there. But faster charging does give you the advantage over the 12 Pro Max. if battery's important to you, I think it's a good upgrade. Now, both of these phones are pretty good when it comes to signal strength because they both house Qualcomm modems. However, the Qualcomm modem in the 14 Pro Max is upgraded to the X65. You can also see that the millimeter wave antenna right there is larger. It just gives you a better 5G experience, better mobile performance, and better signal strength when out and about and on the move. That's important if you're that type of person trying to do something and you're like, hey man, what's up with my internet? And then you're blaming your carrier, but really, you just don't have the signal strength. You want the 14 Pro Max, definitely going to be a nice upgrade over the 12 Pro Max. Also, keep in mind, we do have new AirPods 2 this year, and Bluetooth did get faster for the 14 Pro Max at 5.3 versus 5.0. So definitely, you are getting faster Bluetooth. Face ID recognition is about the same on both of them, so don't expect anything crazy there, anything majorly upgraded. And that's about all that really changes here with these two. So let's bring it all together. Apple builds phones for the long term, and you can see that with the 12 Pro Max still being a beautiful piece of art right there. The 14 Pro Max is just another version of it, just better. You know, that's the point. You want your phone to get better every year, and they've done it again. They've made it better. You know, it doesn't really overhaul. It's not like going from an iPhone 7 to an iPhone 10. It's not a massive change. But it's enough of a change that I would say that if you care about better battery life, better cameras, which is something two point important things that pro users like, this is a great upgrade. But if you're like, you know what, that's kind of high to be still looking kind of similar to my iPhone 12 Pro Max, I think I'll just wait till next year. You're not wrong there either, because the 12 Pro Max is not like this phone is just trash or something all of a sudden. It's definitely not. It still has great cameras, 4K 60, 5G performance, big screen, bright screen. It's basically an iPhone 14 Plus with an extra camera right here. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, though, is definitely a go if you care about those upgrades that we talked about in this video, like dynamic island, camera, and battery. So let me know your thoughts. Are you going to upgrade to the iPhone 14 Pro Max? Are you sticking it out with the 12 Pro Max? Or you just wanted to watch this because you're looking to buy a 12 Pro Max, you wanted to see how good it is next to a 14 Pro Max? Let me know down below in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well. I will catch you on the next episode, and peace.